for more on this, let's turn to legal counsel for the Campaign Legal Center, Jonathan Diaz. Jonathan, thanks so much for joining us on this story. One of these board members, Republican Janelle King, we saw her in that Brian Todd piece. She was on CNN earlier today on First of All with Victor Blackwell this morning. She was arguing that the moves being made by the board are nothing new. They're just cleaning up the process. Let's take a listen to that.
We're not changing anything that has not already been done. We're not creating new laws. So it's already on the books. We're just lining everything up. So asking you to ensure that the number of ballots matches the number of voters is what you should be doing anyway. Asking you to ensure that precincts are counting these ballots is what you should be doing anyway. So we're just cleaning it up, making sure it's uniformed.
How do you see it, Jonathan? You know, she's making the argument that they're just cleaning it up.
I mean, I think what they're really doing is creating opportunities for the county boards of election in Georgia to introduce delays and disruption into what should be a pretty routine and mandatory process of certifying the election results when they're done. It's not the job of the County Board of Elections in their certification vote to do the things that she described in that clip. That's why we have recounts to make sure that all the ballots are tabulated correctly, audits to make sure the machines are working properly, and election contests where a candidate who thinks the rules weren't followed can file a judicial action and we can have, evidence and a court presiding over disputes over election rules. That's not the role of the certifying official. The certifying official's job is to add up the numbers and publish the official count so that all of those other post-election processes can take place.
We're also hearing from the Georgia governor, Brian Kemp. He's a Republican who's asking the state's attorney general for an advisory opinion on what authority he has as governor to address ethics complaints against the state board. Do you think that there's some action that Kemp could potentially take here?
It's certainly possible. And I think the fact that Governor Kemp, who is a conservative Republican, has asked his attorney general for an opinion on the scope of his authority to remove these potentially illegally acting members of the state elections board shows you just how extreme these last-minute moves by the board are and why Secretary of State Raffensperger called them 11th-hour chaos that are going to undermine voter confidence and disrupt election administration.
Yeah, we could see how upset Raffensperger was there. One decision that the board made was to allow for what's being called reasonable inquiry before certifying an election if county election boards have questions about the results. Now, critics are saying that that could cause delays and lead to attempts to subvert the outcome. Do you agree?
I think that's entirely possible. Like I said, that's not the role that the county boards are playing at that time. There are other processes that Georgia, like every state, has in place to verify that the election was conducted correctly. But those processes have to happen on the right timeline. And if county boards are conducting their own reasonable inquiry, whatever that means, because the regulations don't define it, that could introduce a lot of delays and a lot of chaos. And like Ms. King said, the board doesn't have the authority to change Georgia law, and Georgia law is very clear. They have a mandatory deadline set in state statute by which they have to certify those results.
And then there's one more thing that the board is planning to take up. They've got another rule in just a few weeks, September 20th. It's going to require all counties to conduct hand counts of ballots at the precinct level on election night. Is it common for states to switch up their election rules so close to election day?
Absolutely not. And really, they shouldn't. And, I think it's hard to remember sometimes that the election doesn't start in November. In many ways, we're already in the general election.
Right.
Early in-person voting starts in September in many of these states. Mail ballots will start being sent out in September in the next couple of weeks. Georgia sends its mail ballots out to military and overseas voters in just over 2 weeks before that state elections board meeting even takes place. And county boards have to train their staffs. They have to print ballots. They have a lot of work to do in the lead up to the election, and changing the rules at this stage doesn't benefit election administrators, and it certainly doesn't benefit voters.
And Georgia is such a critical battleground state that I know all of us are going to be watching this very, very carefully. Jonathan Diaz, thanks very much. Appreciate it.